When I was released from juvie, I was 16, and I went to stay back with my dad in Lithonia. I didn't have any money for anything, so I called one of the girls. It was one of the girls from the juvenile facility. She was the only one who had got out. The other girl, she didn't get out, but she told us that she was gonna hook us up with an older guy that she knew, and that he was gonna help us get some money. So I went to the man's house, and I met the other girl there. Originally, I called the man from my dad's house after the girl gave me his number. She had got the number from the other girl because I was not in contact with the other girl. I asked the man if he could give me $200. He said he didn't have it, but he said that he could show me how to get it. We went and met him at this building that had been broken up into units as lofts. It was a really nice apartment unit, but it was dead set in the middle of the hood. The other girl and I dressed up and we put on heels. The building where he lived was by the Department of Driver Services. I could see the capital of Atlanta from there. He took us to a building that was next door to the lofts where he lived. The building looked like an abandoned building, but when we went inside, it was like a strip club. There were no other girls in the club besides me and the other girl. There was also a bartender. There were guys there. Then we got on the stage in our panties and our bra, and we started dancing in the heels. I didn't know what to do at first, but I just kind of went with the music. The men started throwing money on the stage. We danced for a few songs, but then I got really tired. The girl seemed like she was tired too. Then she said I was kind of offbeat. I didn't really care because my feet were hurting in the heels. I also never danced like that before. It was my first time dancing like that in front of a man. I felt like I did pretty good. I stayed away from the bar. We sat there for a minute, but then I felt like the bartender would ID us, then find out we were underage. We left with the man who brought us there. He took us back to the lofts. When we went inside, we gave him money. Then the girl left. I ended up staying with the man. He said that he was not involved with the girl in juvenile. He said that he met her on the streets, he was helping her out, but he didn't like her. He said that he wanted to talk to me, and his cousin wanted to talk to my friend. So his cousin came over, and then he said that we were too young, and he left. I was about to turn 17. And the man was handling all types of business deals. He closed on a property and got a commission. Then he bought a new car. I was so excited. He took me shopping and he took me to take pictures with him downtown. I really felt like he loved me. I had already told my mother that I was seeing the man. I told her that I wanted to stay with him and that he said it was okay. My mother said that I was old enough to make decisions for myself, so she let me stay with the man. It was the first time that someone treated me good in my life. He didn't hit me. He bought me food, and it seemed like he would give me anything I wanted. The other girl came over to see me. She was saying that I was wrong because that was the other girl's boyfriend who was in juvenile. I told her what the man said. I told her the man said that they were just cool and that he wasn't her boyfriend. I didn't really have anywhere else to go with someone who would look out for me. So I decided that I would stay. We talked about my age. He said that we would just hide it. I was going on 17. I felt close enough to an adult. I guess when I really think about it, I felt like he was my first love. I was scared to have sex with him. I didn't want to catch anything. I had a bad experience when I was younger. Guys seem to only want to have sex and then break my heart. So with this guy, I was wondering, how long would he stick around? And who else had he been with? I didn't have to dance anymore because the guy was taking care of me. He helped a realtor close out on an apartment in the Bluff. Now he owned the apartment and he was renting it out to my friend and her boyfriend. Before I turned 17, he planned a trip for us. I was already calling myself 17 because I wanted to be older so people wouldn't know how old I really was. We got prepared to go on this trip. Before the trip, I was laying in the bed with him in the living room on a futon bed. There wasn't a bed in the bedroom. While we were asleep, I was dreaming, and I heard a knock on the door. Something told me, don't open the door. And then there was a knock at the door, and it woke us up. I tried to grab him. I said, don't open the door. I didn't know who it was at the door, but they were banging on the door. I remember what I saw in the dream just before the knock on the door. I remember seeing two guys walk past. One short guy who was dark-skinned and one tall guy who was light-skinned. And they were looking when the man wasn't home. I was outside on the porch when I saw the guys walk by. He went to answer the door. Then he opened the door after they asked for him by his name. That wasn't his street name. So I guess he thought that it was someone he knew. He said that his cousin owned the property and that someone that he knew stayed upstairs. So when he opened the door, someone came in and hit him with a gun. Another man came in behind him. Then they started beating him with guns. The tall, light-skinned man had on a mask and a t-shirt and gloves. Then he pointed the gun at my head. It had a very long barrel. The other man, who was dark-skinned and short, he started asking him where was all the money. The guy that I was dating said that there was no money. They went in his pockets and found about $1,700 or $2,000. Then they got angry because he said there was no money. The light-skinned man who was holding the gun to my head was saying that there was more money and asking me where was the money. I didn't know where the money was. I never got in his business about his money. He just bought me things and I never asked questions. There was an empty apartment downstairs that the guy I was dating had access to. I felt like he might have hid something downstairs, but I didn't want to say anything. I felt like if the guys took us down there were no lights in that apartment. I felt like they would kill us. The man had the gun to my head, and I started crying out to God. I was saying, oh God, please don't let them kill me. Please, oh God. Then I said, I'm only 16. Please, I don't want my mom to see me on the news, Dad. Please, I'm only 16. Then the guys, they started beating him up really bad, saying, oh, so you asleep with my 16-year-old sister? And they started kicking him and stuff. I was afraid that they were going to kill us. So I remember the man told me that he had a gun in his closet. So I tried to run to go and get the gun. Then the light-skinned man, he kind of grabbed me and put me on the ground. And then he kicked me, but not really hard. Then they told me to go and find something to tie him up with. I didn't know what to tie him up with. So I went and got cables from the TV. Then I tried to tie him up as tight as I could with the cable cords. The dark-skinned guy was giving orders to the light-skinned guy. I could tell that he was the one who was running things. One of the guys looked out the window and he said that whoever they rolled with had left them. They told us to give them our cell phones. Then they told us to go in the bathroom and get in the bathtub. They cut the lights off. Then they said they were gonna shoot us and kill us. I started screaming and I tried to hide behind the guy. He was screaming too, don't kill us, man. I felt this feeling come over my body of death. When you're so afraid in that moment, when you feel like it's gonna be your last time, when you never think that death is gonna creep up on you like that, for someone to just come and take your life. I begged them. I said, he has a car. He has a brand new car. I'll give you the keys. Then they told me to go get the keys. So I got out the tub and I ran to go find the keys. Then I gave the guy the keys. I said, just get away. I told the guys to hurry and leave. Then they took our phones and they left. The guy that I was dating had his lip bust wide open, and there was meat hanging out from his bottom lip. He told me that he used to be in a gang, something like the Black Stone Rangers, or something like that, or Black Disciples. I didn't feel that it was gang related, because he told me that he left that life behind, back in Chicago. He told me that he had shot a man down the street not too long before he met me. So I figured that's probably what it was. But I wasn't sure. I I was thinking maybe somebody we knew probably found out about that money, then set us up. The guys dropped my cell phone off at the police department. The police contacted my mother and gave her my cell phone. I thought, who knew that robbers could have a heart? They dropped off my phone, and somehow they had told the police to contact my mother. The guy who I was involved with, he felt like I had something to do with the robbery because I told the men to take his car. I explained to him the only reason why I told them to take your car was because I was trying to help them get away. The only reason why I was trying to help them get away was because I felt like they would kill us to make sure no one came after them. The getaway driver left them at the house, so I was thinking survival. The only thing that came to my mind to keep them from killing us was the car. Just give them the car. They found the car somewhere abandoned not too long after that. Then we were on our way. He still wanted to plan the trip to go see his family. On my 17th birthday, we went to Chicago. My great-grandmother had passed away. They were having her funeral in Arkansas. I didn't want to go because there were so many people in my family that had died. I was tired of going to funerals. It seemed like it was always death in our family. It was always misery or something tragic. So this time, I was on my way to Chicago to celebrate my birthday. He was from Chicago too, so we both decided to ride up there together. I knew that I wouldn't see my family, but I still wanted to see Chicago. I hadn't been back to Chicago since I was 13, when my cousin was abusing me, and I never wanted to go back. This time, since I knew I could see the city, but be with people that I felt like I could trust, I was on my way. We rode up to the Chi. When we got there, we were supposed to go downtown to a movie to celebrate my 17th birthday. The guy took me to meet his family. I met his mother, his daughter, his son, and his baby mama. We went downtown to go to the movie, but the guy was saying that the tickets were way too high. We didn't do anything for my birthday. He decided that he wanted to go out with his cousin. His son was allowing us to stay at his house with his baby mama and with his kids. I went to his baby mama's house and I met his baby mama. I met his daughter. She was the reason why we came to visit. She was a grown woman and she had a child. The guy wanted me to see pictures of him from when he was younger. I wanted to see the pictures, but his mother wouldn't get the photos out. The guy and I were sleeping at his son's house in his son's room. His son and his baby mama were sleeping in the living room with their kids. Everyone left me at his son's house alone. The guy that I was dating went out with his cousin. His son and his baby mama went to work. I fell asleep in the son's bedroom by myself. I had rings on my finger. My mother had given me her old wedding ring. I stayed in the house by myself the entire night. His son came back by himself. He was saying that his jewelry was missing. The guy that I was dating and his cousin were in the house with me before they went out. We were the only ones who had been in their house besides him and his baby mother. I knew that I did not take the jewelry, but the guy that I was dating and his cousin still had not come back yet, and it was the next morning. The guy was very angry, and his baby mama came back. She was angry. She was saying that they shouldn't have let us stay in the house. When the guy that I was dating came back, he was falling out on the floor, saying that his legs were giving out on him. I started to go and get his son. He didn't want me to get his son. He said that something that he had did caused his legs to go out on him. He asked for me to help him off of the ground. He was using heroin. He said that he didn't want his son to know that he had relapsed. Then his son got into it with him about his jewelry being missing. We were only there for like a day or two. Now his son and his baby mama were telling us that we had to leave right away. His son called his mother. Then the guy that I was dating, his baby mother came over to fight for her son about his jewelry being missing. When she came over, she was arguing at the guy that I was dating. I was trying to get them to calm down, but the guy I was dating told me that it was family business, to stay out of it. Then they started fighting. The guy that I was dating and his baby mama were fighting in his son's living room. I didn't get involved. Then after the fight, the guy said, "Oh, you just gonna let her hit me like that? You're gonna let her hit me? I'm supposed to be your man?" And I was like, "Well, you told me to stay out of it. Besides, I wasn't gonna jump in anyway, because it was not my fight." I really believed that he did take the jury. At first, his son asked me if I took the jury, but then I showed him the ring that I had on my finger that my mother gave me. I said, "The ring that I have on my finger is worth a lot of money. I don't need to steal your jewelry. I have my own." The guy told me that him and his dad had a bad history. He said that his dad was always doing stuff like that. He said he felt like he knew for sure that it was his dad that took the jewelry. At that point, I felt like they did too. I remember we had at least a couple of $1,000s on our way to Chicago. He didn't take me out for my birthday, but I guess they blew the money when they went out. I was kind of ashamed because he didn't even take me out for my birthday. The tickets were only about $10, so I couldn't understand how he spent $2,000 and didn't even take me to a movie. He called the guy who he had been doing business with in Atlanta. It was a white man that he had closed out on properties with. He asked the white man to give him money so that we could get back home. The white man didn't want to do it because he was tired of doing him favors. He finally decided to send us the money so we could get back home. I was so upset. I felt like he had been so irresponsible. We were on our way back to Atlanta. That pretty much summed up the whole trip. I remember leaving his son's apartment, and I felt really dry about it. I didn't understand why it couldn't be a good time. When we went up there was a fight, and they almost dragged me into it. I remember feeling like there was someone watching over me when I was laying in the bed in his son's room, when they left me all alone in the apartment. I felt like there was a presence with me, a presence inside of me, something that I didn't know. I also felt like there was something very evil about all the people who were around me. The guy was very mean to me. I was 17 now. I met him when I was 16, going on 17. I didn't know him very long. I figured it was because of the robbery why he changed. He was mean, and he was always yelling at me. He was always putting me down. When we got back to Atlanta, my boyfriend's cousin wanted us to move out of those lofts. We moved into my boyfriend's property by Vine City in the Bluff. It was right next to the Georgia Dome. This was around the time that a lot of people came from New Orleans from Hurricane Katrina. There was a war going on in the Bluff over turf. There were a lot of shootings and murders between the men from New Orleans and the men from Atlanta. My boyfriend at the time was acting really funny. He was starting to do things that could get him locked up for money. He was hanging with the wrong crowd, and I could have got in trouble just for riding with him in his car. My mother had been by to visit me, and she gave me her blessing. I believe she gave us some furniture. I didn't hang out much with the other girl anymore. She was the girl who I hung out with when I danced for the first time. My boyfriend introduced me to a lady from New York. The community was infested with drug dealers, and it was not a good environment for me. I had a relaxer, and all of my hair fell out of my head. I had a few straggly pieces from the relaxer left, and I decided that I would cut the rest off. I started making wigs to wear. Then I applied to get a job at Hartsfield International Airport. I took the train from Vine City all the way to Hartsfield International Airport. I was told about the job opportunity by a girl that I knew. I was 17 years old. I wore heels. I was very fancy. and I had burgundy spiral curls to my shoulders. I was so excited to be working in such a fancy place. They hired me on the spot right after the interview. Hartsfield International Airport was a place where you would see so many familiar faces that were on television. It wasn't until I actually started working my job that I started to see celebrities. But there were so many successful black people that it was like a dream come true. I remember going by the baggage claim and having to wear a clear bag to work that could show all the items that were in my bag. I thought that was pretty cool. I wore a white shirt and pants that were part of my uniform. I was actually dressed up like a professional. We had to go through the security check-in point in order to get by the restaurants. And we would go through the metal detectors. Here I was about to start my first day, very nervous, as the first hostess for Chick-fil-A. I was in the newspaper, in the local article, as the first hostess for Chick-fil-A. I was 17 years old, and I got to take pictures with the manager and somebody else that was very important. There were other people working in the kitchen and behind the counter, but that was not my job because they felt like I was very beautiful. So they allowed me to kind of just tell people which line to go to. In the airport, it was very, very busy, and the lines would get ridiculous. So my job was to kindly ask each customer to go to one register or another to keep the service moving faster. I got to meet Michael B. Jordan from Blackout, and there was another young man off of Soul Food. He was, I think, not Terry or Bird, but the other girl's husband off of Soul Food. And it was the show. He was there with his daughter, and it was nice to just see so many successful blacks. I didn't last long at the company because my wisdom teeth were growing in. They were excruciating, and my manager was a black man who kept trying to come on to me. When I told him that I would not go out with him, he seemed to get a very bad attitude. When I told him that I needed to take some time off for the day because of my medical issue, he seemed to harass me a lot because I would not give in to his sexual advances. Suddenly, I became more of a pain in his behind when I reported it to HR. I left my boyfriend, who I had been staying with in the Bluff, because he was on a very hard drug. It was not working out between us at all. I told my mother that I wanted to go to school to be an interior decorator, but she felt like she wanted me to go to medical school. I knew I wanted to go to college, but I still hadn't figured out for what. So I asked my mother, could I move back in with her? She said that I could. So I moved with my mother and my sister to Duluth, Georgia, Sugarland area. Some of my family from Chicago had come down to live, and my grandmother came with me to Zaxby's to apply for a job. I was still 17 years old. They hired me on the spot. I was so excited to have a new job in a wonderful area. These were where the rich people lived. So I started out as a cashier, and they moved me to the drive-thru. I would walk to work every day listening to UGK, keep on pushing. So I was very motivated. I had a boyfriend at the time, but we didn't see each other much, and this time he was around my age. He was the guy that I used to date when I was in 8th grade back in middle school. My mother let him come to visit me one time. Surprisingly, we worked for the same company. We both worked for Zaxby's. So I was working the drive-thru, and they had a contest to see who could be the fastest on the drive-thru, and I began to win. So now I was the fastest on the drive-thru at Zaxby's. This was causing a little tension between me and a woman named Carolina. It's surprising that I remember her name because she was the woman who caused me to get fired. She was a Hispanic woman who was a manager or an assistant manager at the time. I remember going out to my lunch break one day, and I told my mother about what happened with me and Carolina. So Carolina seemed to want to start a problem with me on the job for no reason. There was also a black manager and a black female manager. But today the black manager was there, and there was no locker for me at the company to put my Coach bag. And the black manager told me that it was okay for me to put it in the office. When it was time for me to go on my break, I asked the black manager if I could get my Coach bag, and he told me to go ahead and get it out of the office. So he was working in the kitchen. I went into the office to get my Coach bag to go outside for my break. Carolina says to me, when I come back from my break after I try to clock in, that I was not supposed to go into the office. When I tried to clock in for my break, the system said that I was early and that it would not allow me to clock in. So I waited right there for a second. Then I clocked in on time. First, Carolina tried to accuse me of not clocking in on time. I showed Carolina my clock-in slip that said that I did clock in on time. So then Carolina goes on to say that I was not supposed to go into the office to get my purse out of the manager's room. I told Carolina I was told to go and get my bag before my break out of the manager's room. She said, I'm going to have to lock you out of the manager's room. You cannot go in there alone. She said, I'm going to write you up for going into the manager's room when you were not supposed to. I told Carolina the black manager in the kitchen is the one who told me that I can go and get my bag, and that's all that I did. Then she talks to the black male manager, and he tells her, Carolina, I told her that she could go in to get her bag, and that was all. But Carolina said, I do not care. I'm going to write you up anyway. Then I said to Carolina, why do you write me up? So Carolina goes on to say, I send you home now. You go home right now. I said, Carolina, why are you sending me home? I have not done anything. So then I go home to my mother, and my mother was upset because I had natural hair. I had lost my hair when I was at Larry's home, my ex-boyfriend, and I had to wear a wig, and now I was wearing long weave, but I had natural hair. So I was beginning to want to wear my natural hair, and my mother was saying, what's with this natural hair and everything? So I remember when I come to tell her what Carolina did, she was very quiet and she didn't want to respond. So I go back and I speak to the black woman, general manager, and she wants to speak with me about my job. She was not there the day that it happened, but I told her, I say, ma'am, Carolina was not telling the truth about me not clocking in on time. And then there was no locker for me to put my Coach bag, and the black male manager told me to put my Coach bag into the office. So when I needed my purse for my break, he told me to go into the office to get my bag. And then Carolina accused me of clocking in too late for my break, and I showed her that I did not clock in too late. I clocked in on time. Then she accused me of going into the manager office when I'm not supposed to and writing me up. Then I tell her that the black manager told me to do that and put my bag there and go to get my bag for my break. She verified all of this with the black manager, but she still write me up. And the black general manager woman say with glasses short, she say, I don't know, but I side with Carolina. You fired. And I was fired. Good thing that I kept looking for other jobs when I was filling out the application for Zaxby's. Because right after she hired me for Zaxby's, they hired me for another company called World of Wings. So this was not my only job at Zaxby's. I was also working next door in a new restaurant called World of Wings. And I was a hostess there. So I could go to my other job. One thing I will say about Zaxby's, they had really good food there. Also, I work the drive-thru and I meet rapper Mace. He come through the drive-thru and I go, oh my goodness, it's Mace at the drive-thru. He was like so excited. He was a preacher man now. And he give me the money to pay for his food. Then he say, keep the change. I go, I cannot do. He say, yeah, you can keep the change. Then he say, come to my church sometime. And I say, I don't know, cause I didn't go to church much. But I saved all of my money and I had about $700. So now I go home to my mother and I'm going to cry to her. Like, mother, I fired. Why do you not come up to the job for me? Why do you not come stand up for me? I tell her everything. I'm like, Mom, there was nothing that I could do. The Hispanic woman, Carolina, she get me fired from the job. I was just trying to get started to go to college. And there were many men who were calling my phone saying that they wanted my hand in marriage. From knowing my friend, she give them my number and tell them that I was single. So the men called and they said that they want to marry me. So now I'm like with only one job. And at this job, there was a bunch of white girls there. And that was a whole nother story. I remember meeting a young white man there. He said that his father owned the entire company. I don't know if it's true or not, but I may have met the owner's son. I know they have different franchise, but now I was out of a job. And I also had it on my record that I had been fired. That didn't seem to matter much, but this was my first real experience with racism. I didn't understand how a black woman could completely overlook everything that was being shown, that this Hispanic woman was somewhat persecuting me on my job, but she did overlook it.